Hello, everyone on Patreon. Thank you so much for voting this month on the first ever CAGNey in the Movies video where I review a performance each month from James Cagney in a variety of his films. The winner this month is The Public Enemy, which was released in 1931. This was directed by William A. Wellman, and it, of course, starred James Cagney, Jean Harlow, and Edward Woods. For those of you who have not seen the film, the plot, according to IMDb, is an Irish American street punk tries to make it big in the world of organized crime. It had been a little while since I've seen this film, and I watched it again the other night and just absolutely blown away by it. I mean, it's such a powerful, emotional film and empathetic towards the likes of Cagney's character Tyrone Power, which is ironic because it begins and ends with these title cards warning people about organized crime. And it's not that the film shies away from the brutality of these people, but it is rather empathetic, and shows that they are human beings, just that they have all their at their core bad in a lot of ways. But you can't make a film just saying someone's bad is to me not really as effective, because the audience already knows that. So it's much more valuable to understand why people turn out this way, and to explore them psychologically, and their relationships. But Cagney, this is his star making film. He's so good in this, and it's just really, it's like Dana DiCarlo and Lisa Sanita, who co-edited the book Conversations with Cagney that I interviewed them about, said there's just no one like him. It's just the way he gestures, the way he smiles, the way he walks, the way he swaggers, the little punch on the chins he gives everybody. He just has this. There's just this natural spunkiness and sense of humor and devilish boyishness about him, even in the roughest of roles. But again, he does not shy away from Tyrone's Power's ruthlessness. But there's a few things that he really captures here, which is just with his expression, because there's a number of moments where he just had to react to certain things. For example, he sees one of these criminals that he used to work with earlier in the film when he was much younger, who basically he knew since he was a child and who had betrayed him. And as he comes up in the underworld, he's dancing with Jean Harlow, and he spots him at this dance hall. And again, from an acting point of view, he has to have that reaction of, oh my, there's that guy who betrayed me. And right away, you know exactly what he's feeling and thinking, and how he's just turns to fury as soon as he sees him. Just the reaction on his face, it was so real. And what's interesting is that this was a time when it was a little harder to find actors who were really realistic and truthful on screen. A lot of these actors were from vaudeville or silent films, and so even theater, and so everything was a little broader and theatrical. And even though he was from those same disciplines on the stage, he was always so realistic. And I'm not surprised that he was switched to play Tom Powers, because he was originally supposed to play Matt Doyle, who Edward Woods plays, and Edward Woods was supposed to play Tom Powers. And then as the production began, William Wellman realized he had to switch it because Cagney was much better for Powers, and he's a much better actor. And everybody in the film, not everybody, because Joan Blondell's always been great. I mean, her part's quite small as one of the girlfriends, Mamie, of Matt Doyle. His mom is quite good, Beryl Mercer as Ma Powers, but everyone is, for the most part, quite broad. Jean Harlow was not good at this. She became better as she got along, but she was really flat, really dry. And Donald Cook is also really over the top, and Edward Woods also, he's quite wooden. And so Cagney is just in I hate the expression that someone is acting better than their scene partners, but because really the better you are, the better they are, and vice versa. But that's not always the case, because you can be as an actor myself, you could be working with someone and you could see that they're not very good, but you could still give a great performance. And so yeah, the audience can spot the balance between who may be more realistic than the other person. It's not always ideal, but it happens. It happens to this day. And at this time in movies, it was a little more obvious. And so Cagney was just way ahead of everyone. But that's a moment that really stands out to me. And of course, later on in the film, he has another moment after Matt Doyle is shot. Here's his childhood friend gunned down right in front of him, and people are crowding around him, and he hides because they tried to kill him as well. He hides, and then he comes out and just looks at the dead body. So again, and he looks, truly broken and devastated. And again, from an acting point of view, that's what he has to do. He has to come out of the corner and have this expression of devastation and loss. And so, boom, he just nails it. It's exactly what he's expressing and feeling. He has it all, and again, it's really, really realistic and really, really truthful. And he's the thing about Cagney is you can see how he's listening to the other actors. He's always responding. The scene he has with Jean Harlow where she's on his lap. I'm more interested in him because you see him actually listening to her, and again, she's rather flat. And she's talking about the different characters of men and things like that. And if you look at Cagney as Tom Powers, he looks confused by what she's saying. And you only really see the side of his face because the focus is more on Jean Harlow and the way that it's blocked and positioned. But I was finding myself looking at him because he's really doing something. And as an actor and acting teacher myself, I always encourage my actors and myself, of course, is that whatever you do, you really do, So if you're in front of the camera, in front of an audience, you really listen, you really react, you really try to get the other person to do something. And so he does that, Cagney. And again, you see him responding to her, and it's great. Again, the famous, the putting the fruit in his girlfriend's face, which was, such a classic scene and something that was meant to be a gag. At first, that they did as a joke, and then William Wellman liked it, so he kept it. But if you look at the way he looks at her, just with this hatred, and he's sick of her at this point, and he really is mean to her in their communication and contact, and as their relationship evolved. Whereas earlier, when he first met her, he was quite sweet. And he really, again, this is when you see the darker sides of Tom Powers, which and the nasty sides, which again Cagney really brings right to the forefront. He has another reaction, which is it's not always easy when you have to have when a character is seeing something like the other cases I mentioned, where he sees the man who betrayed him, and then when he sees his friend Matt Doyle get killed. The other one is when he finds out that one of the leaders one of his leaders in the underworld was gunned down, and this was the guy who was the main source of their income, and was the guy who brought them into the bootlegging and everything. And they find out he died and that he was killed, and Cagney just holds the eyes of the other character, Matt Doyle, and he just he does it. He's like, it's interesting because he's not going for shock, or he just holds his eye contact for like maybe 2 seconds, and then he says, "Who killed him?" And again, I think he already was beginning to understand the power of the camera, that sometimes an actor has to just do very little. It's not like he had to be like, "What?" or do something big with his face. He actually does nothing. And my judgment call was that, sometimes when people are shocked, they don't react. They're just so still and they just are breathless. And that's what I really got from him. This life was sucked out of him, finding out that this man, it was Nails Nathan, that was it, who played by Leslie Fenton, when he finds out that he was killed. And just by doing nothing and just hesitating for a couple of seconds and then saying the line, "Who killed him?" So powerful, by just doing so little. So I love that. Another fantastic scene he has early on in the film with Donald Cook is this fight that they get into when, Mike, his brother Mike is criticizing the fact that he's, becoming a criminal, and they have this heated confrontation. And again, Donald Cook again you can see he's actually not listening to him. He's really wooden. He's just trying to perform. And Cagney's just present. He's listening. He's right in the scene. And if you look at his reaction, the vein is popping out of his head. I mean, it is so angry and so strong. I mean, it's a wonderful moment. Later on, you see their relationship get torn apart, and Mike Powers just hated the fact that his brother's become a murderer. And again, when he tears into him at the dinner table, when he brings that keg of beer in, and he calls him a murderer, you look over at Cagney, and he's just it's not that he's just sort of, he's done with this. Like, his behavior, I think a lot of actors would have maybe went for something like anger there, like, oh, he's yelling at me, so I got it, but I got to get angry, or something along those lines, or maybe one would just become angry. But he doesn't. He's just sort of. It's almost as if he's looking at him like, I'm sick of hearing you, like, I'm not going to take this from you. And he just hesitates, and he says to him something along the lines of, you haven't changed. And he just walks out. And I like that he was just sort of like, I'm not even going to get mad at this guy. Because we already really saw that between them. And at this point, it's just the relationship has just died. And it's like, why scream? Why yell? It's like, I'm out of here. And again, it's all behavior that Cagney brings to it. And it's wonderfully done. I love the scene when, again, it's a really scary scene, and this happened during Prohibition, where he goes into the bar, and the bartender, the owner, was selling a different beer than the ones that they were selling everybody. And he spits the beer in the guy's face. He goes around the bar and drains all of the beer and says, you're only gonna, something along the lines of, you're only gonna buy from us. And he's so threatening. And it's interesting because Wellman doesn't even have to go for a close-up, because it's already so powerful. And I mean, there's something a little humorous about it, because he's like, well, how many kegs do you want? And the guy goes 2 or 3, something like that. And then Tom Power goes, okay, 5. I mean, it's dark sense of humor, but something about that scene that just left me sort of scared. I mean, I could really feel for this poor barkeep and owner, and this happened all the time when organized crime took advantage of these people. But it's such a great performance. I love even later on in the hospital, after he gets shot, and there's this, his brother comes, and his mother, and this somewhat are coming to patch things up, and just the way he apologizes to his brother, and it's again, he's not trying to do a lot or anything, but it's very simple and subtle, the way he says, I'm sorry just for everything, and again, he's doing so little, yet it's so strong. It's so powerful. So this is his star-making role, and it's just such a wonderful, mesmerizing, strong performance. And Wellman did the right thing by making sure Cagney was the lead, because he stands out in this. And again, it just reinforces that he certainly has been one of the great film actors of all time. And he's hard to top in that regard, because just no one does it like him, and you always are able to feel for the worst of the people that he's played. It's just it's both the power of the story, the power of the direction, of the screenwriting, and certainly of the performers like Cagney to pull it off. Because you, like I said, you do empathize with this man. Just lastly, the really strong moment is as he goes to kill the men who killed his friend, Jimmy Doyle, Matt Doyle. And, it's pouring out in the rain. And again, just the look on his face, he sort of smiles at first, like almost as if he's going to enjoy killing these guys. Again, just a reaction you wouldn't expect before doing something like killing someone. He's just sort of like, he's so mad. He's just all in his face and his eyes. And he's sort of got that grin on his face. And then he just goes in there with this fury in his expression and his body. I love it. It's so good. So I want to thank you for voting on The Public Enemy. this month. I hope that you've enjoyed this review. Please comment below. Let me know what you think of Cagney in this film and what you think of the film in general. Thank you again for voting. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.